Hello everyone. My name is Art Russell. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to share quite a bit of information in this video, but there's one main reason behind that: to alleviate suffering in consciousness. When there's confusion about our true identity, our true self, there's suffering. Now, I'll share a personal example of this. In 1974, when I was 16, my father suddenly passed during the course of 3 days. As you can imagine, there was great suffering. And that was made worse because all I knew of myself at that time was the body and the mind. This is what we're conditioned to believe. I had no conscious awareness of my deeper nature, and so I couldn't see that in my father. So when we believe this, and someone dies, the body dies, we believe that their essence has died. It's because we didn't know our own essence that we believe this. And during my career of almost 36 years working as a paramedic, I saw this time and time again: the weeping, the sorrow, the panic, people waving the ambulance in, the crew. They'd be standing on their front deck or their front porch waving us in, and we knew that a patient was going to be either in the throes of dying, their body-mind, or that cardiac arrest had occurred and they were vital signs absent. So that's the purpose and why I'm sharing this information, is to alleviate suffering. So let's get into it. On April 15th, 2021, I published an article entitled "Bye Bye Ego, Hello Vid-I." Hello Vid-I. I published this at my blog at thinktwice.me. Now, in that article, which I'm going to attach at the end of this video, attach a link to, I relate that I had been reading a book entitled Amrut Leya, The Stateless State, by Sri Sadguru Siddharameshwar. Now, there's a mouthful, but this is just the way it is. They're honorific titles, and deservedly so, because these beings understood reality at a deeper level. So I hope you can maybe learn some of these names, and you'll come to respect the being behind the name. In that book, Sri Sadguru Siddharameshwar related the account of a king who sought the help of a guru because he desired to know his true self. And after a certain period of time, the king realized his true nature. And from that point on, the king was sometimes referred to as a Vid-I, which means he without a body. Now, the term defined in a dictionary is 1, disembodied, released from the body, and 2, weaned from bodily and earthly enjoyments and pleasure. Now, in case this sounds kind of scary, especially the second part about being weaned from earthly pleasures and enjoyment, I actually have a very different take on that. I believe that when we know our true nature, we can live fully with greater ethics and morals. We still enjoy. It doesn't mean we can't partake of the apparent pleasures of this world. When we know our true nature, it involves a shift in perspective from believing that we are a person in a great big world to knowing that the body and the world arise within consciousness. Now, this is pointed to in many holy books, and I am not an authority on any of them. But some direct experience has led me down this path, and I'm glad to share the information. From the Bhagavad Gita, which is, I believe, basically interpreted as Song of the Lord, we read the following quote: "Weapons cannot cut it, nor can fire burn it. Water cannot wet it, nor can wind dry it." Well, that certainly doesn't apply to body minds because they can be burned, they can get wet, wind dries them. Consciousness, however, try to cut it, try to burn it, try to wet it or dry it. It's the substratum in which everything arises and with which it's known. That's our true nature. Had I known that when I was 16, with the passing of my father, I would have known that he hadn't perished, that he wasn't in a heaven that I just hoped for. I wouldn't have known that he lives. This is why the Bible in Acts chapter 17, verse 28 says, "For in him we live and have our being." It doesn't mean if you make enough donations, if you find the right sect, religion, church, denomination. We are that already. It's just that the majority of us aren't aware of it. Now, what I'm suggesting, what I'm offering here, because it's not something, don't just take it on my words. If you did, it would be hollow and meaningless. But a quote that I've shared before that can add to this knowing, point to it, was offered in a book entitled The Law of Success by Paramahansa Yogananda. And I first discovered it when I was studying books about the law of attraction. And the first few reads, I will have missed this one sentence that made all the difference. And it's this, though, and it's very short. The mind is the creator of everything. The mind. The same mind that makes the contents, including objects and events that seem very real in our nighttime dreams. It makes this. We're spirit now. Now, one of the issues is related to scientific knowledge. And the issue is whether objects, persons, things, have intrinsic, I call it, thingness. Do they stand alone, apart from the mind that perceives them? Surely we don't believe that things in our nighttime dreams are real and lasting. That would mean if we'd been riding a camel in our dreams, there might be camel poop around the bed in the morning. Let's go to sand instead. You're on a desert. Is there sand around the bed? That's better than the camel poop. Anyway, I'm not trying to make light of this. I'm actually trying to bring the only thing that's real, light, to this video. Now, another piece of information that was part of my apparent journey occurred at about 3 to 3:30 one morning at the base. My partner and I had returned from a call. We're both on till 6 a.m. And instead of just reclining in one of the chairs that we could recline in, my partner, he went to another room. And I was alone in the room that had computer. So I turned it on and I was checking out some things. And I came across a video about how eyesight works. And I was intrigued. And we usually look at this on a very shallow basis. We just take it for granted. But in this presentation, this video, it was related how light enters the eyes and it goes through the cornea, and the light rays bounce off the retina where an image is formed on all these light sensitive rods and cones, and an image is formed upside down, and then that travels through the optic nerve to the visual cortex at the back of the brain. And then it's referenced at very, very quick speed against what there would be in memory. And it's turned right side up, and we see it. But the bottom line of this, and this really struck home with me, was that everything we see is a representational image. Now, from the body-mind perspective, we walk and talk and move around believing that all these objects, that we're interacting with the real objects. No, every object seen is a representation. Can't get around that. Now, this is one of the key points that I shared in my book entitled This Taste of Flesh and Bones. Now, it's available from Amazon, and if that's part of your journey, fine. If not, that's fine too. Anyway, back to the base that night, and I found myself shutting off the computer, and I reclined in a chair and I looked at my arm. And with what I had learned in mind, I knew, well, it has to be a representational arm. How can it not be? What I see of the arm has to be. That's the way the system works. So this was, as is related in the Gospel of Thomas, kind of troubling. And there was a sense of wonder, puzzlement. But it was this knowing that, well, I'm seeing this body, so it's representational. Now, it feels very real, but what our lives do, but what I'm suggesting is what's real is the spirit. Another point that I mentioned in my book, I discovered in The Master Key System by Charles F. Hennell, where he wrote, "The spirit of the thing is the thing. The spirit of the thing is the thing. I hope that some of these dots that I'm offering here are starting to connect for you. It might alleviate some suffering or some fear. So, if any of the information that I've shared resonates with you, that's good. And I'd also like to, because that means you might be awakening, you might be on the trail of awakening to your essential nature beyond name and form. I'd like to share a Sanskrit term which is called Jivan Mukti or Mukta. It means liberated while living. To know ourselves beyond name and form. We perceive the body-mind, which suggests we're back of it, the true identity as formless consciousness, formless eternal consciousness. This is easier to understand when we switch the paradigm around or turn it end for end. We're conditioned to believe that somehow the body gives rise to consciousness. Turn it end for end. What if it's the other? That consciousness gives rise to objects and events. This was pointed to in the Law of Attraction books, but for many years I was trying to work that system from the perspective of art. I was so deeply anchored in this art guy, in the belief, the assumption that I am the form. What if I'm the formless in which the form appears? Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, in I Am That, stated the following. I'm very close to it. The real does not die. The unreal never lived. The unreal, it's a projection of mind. Paramahansa Yogananda, the mind is the creator of everything, including this. Now, perhaps the next time that someone asks you who you are, you may silently know, I am, while you listen to your mouth say, I am Bob, or Art, or Betty, or Sue, or Ananda. If you've enjoyed this video or found it helpful in some way, I invite you to subscribe, share, and like. I'm going to attach the link to the article that I mentioned from my blog. The article, once again, is entitled, Bye Bye Ego. Hello, Vidai. I'm looking forward to talking with you again soon. Bye for now.